So, good evening, everyone, and I'm Manish Samnani, the director of Soch Gurgaon. With me, co-hosting this event is Kamya Narang. She is a very eminent OT in Delhi NCR region and heading the First Steps Pediatric. If I'm correct, Kamya, I'm very bad with remembering names. So let's start with introduction to the EASI, and I have here few visuals, few slides for all of us. Okay, so where did it come from? So basically, 2020 is the birth centenary year of Genius, and in 2014, an international group of therapists had an idea or a vision. So a lot of therapists, like all of us, are sitting together or meeting virtually, a group of 50, 70 people. They all sat together in 2014 and thought that what is our vision for sensory integration and a global vision. So they thought of the vision as this. They said that let's make some standardization. And the standardization was not just about a tool, but about the whole therapy, intervention, sensory integration as a whole should get standardized. So what they did is they thought of making it a trademark, which is called the AIRS sensory integration, or ASI in short. And they said that this would be an evidence-based intervention. And if we are trademarking it, we basically mean to make sure that this is differentiated from any other interventions that could be used using the sensory-based activities or sensory-based approach is being used. However, ASI would always be different from all of them. That was the intention. So in order to regulate the standards of education throughout the world, the International Council for Education in AIRS Sensory Integration, ICEASI, was founded in 2018. And the purpose was simply to promote best practice. And this council is currently working on standards for education and training programs in ASI. So it kind of regulates what would be the content of education, SI education, what would be the content of curriculum of SI education, what would be the competencies and quality of this education throughout the world. And in fact, any SI education program, if it is a global standard program, it needs to be validated by the ICEASI 2018 onwards. Now, we all know about the SI certification programs that are going on. These ASI education programs are also being considered a certification in SI program, and which has been developed. And there are some prominent authors of books of SI, people who are first generation or second generation people of Jean Ayers education, who received direct education from her, are the faculties in the ASI certification programs. There's a lot of emphasis on standardized tools like SIPT, SPM, and EASI, which we are going to read about a little more. Now, if any assessment in SI is supposed to be used worldwide, we know that the comprehensive assessment till now is through the SIPT. However, those of you who are exposed to SIPT, you would know that SIPT has its own limitations. The weight of the suitcase, the kit is to be imported from foreign country. You have to do a certification program to ensure that you have the licensure to use it. And there are many more in terms of scoring and the costing as well. The costing especially is very, very high. And that was the vision of the ESI people, who said that we would develop a tool which is not validated only in the US, which SIPT is, but would be validated in 100 countries, and it would be available at low cost or no cost at all. So that was the vision, that we have to develop a tool which is comprehensive, but also there is no much of a money involved in it. So these are the three authors who then took up the project. They got the funding. They initiated the project at the Thomas Jefferson University, and the project is still going on. So Zoe Melio Suzanne Smith-Rowley, Diane Parham, very prominent people. If you look at AJOT and if you read about articles on SI, you will find these three people talking a lot about research, about evidence-based practice in a very, very leadership way. So these are the primary authors of the program EASI project being run in the Thomas Jefferson University. Now, the process that they used for developing the tool is this. So you have to develop the test, 2 steps, develop the test and go for a normative data collection. And you know the further steps where if assuming all of us are exposed to research methodology, we know that all these things are to be done under the test development, review of literature and other things. However, for normative data collection, they did a pilot testing only on US sample, which is completed. They revised the test and items based on analysis, which is also completed. And the third step, or the last step in making this tool validated and standardized in 100 countries, is a normative data collection, that the collection of data is to be done on all kinds of population. However, it is to be done on very, very regular, typical developing children. I'm sure Kamya would be able to describe a little bit about inclusion, exclusion of the children that you could take for EASI testing as of now for normative data collection. So that's what the test development process is. There is already a published article which talks about introduction to the evaluation in air sensory integration. This is by Roseanne Schaaf, and she's also a primary investigator at the Thomas Jefferson. She's in fact the head of the OT program at Thomas Jefferson. The article has been published, as you can see, in September in 2018, and pilot studies on US based population and discriminative validity, which means is the tool strong enough to discriminate between children who are normal and children who have a problem, has been already established. Although it has been established on US population, but that means that the tool is very much a valid tool in terms of not in terms of having norms in various countries, but definitely in terms of having being a sensitive tool towards children who have special needs. That has been established in 2018. The International Normative Data Collection is a separate project under the EASI, which aims at validating this tool for in various countries. Remember that the SIP tool was based only on the US norms, and that was one of the major criticism for SIPT, that maybe this SIPT or the normative of the SIPT is not valid for India or any other population where the test has not been validated. Now, under the EASI, they thought about validating it over 100 countries, and in fact, more than 100 countries are now a part of the EASI normative data collection project, and as you can see, India is also a part of it. Now, what they also have done is they have divided the world into 20 regions, and there is one region called Region 8, and Region 8 includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Tajikistan. And you will be happy to know that they decided that India should be the region lead. India should be leading the other countries of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Tajikistan as well. However, we have not been able to work to the expectation of the global fraternity, to be very honest, because Pakistan has already collected 90 normative data on 90 children. However, India has roughly collected incompletely collected 20 data. So today's presentation, today's training by Kamya is more about how can we take this forward in a really reliable and a straightforward way, because we are really lagging behind. Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Tajikistan Tajikistan, we could not connect very well. It is also possible that Tajikistan does not have an OT program that is accredited to the World Federation of OT. Sri Lanka and Nepal, and Bangladesh, we have tried to connect with these three countries. We have tried to ensure that we have. I think there were some people from Bangladesh who were joining. I could not get in touch with Sri Lanka and Nepal people as well. So from all over the world, the region leads are supposed to invite other people to test normal children. Now, in brief, what is new in the EASI as far as the academic part is concerned? The air sensory integration is divided into four constructs: perception, sensory perception, praxis, postural, ocular, and bilateral integration, and sensory reactivity. Those of you who are who are aware and exposed to sensory integration certification program, who are also aware of the SIPT, would be able to appreciate that out of these four constructs, the SIPT does not have any item in the fourth construct, sensory reactivity, which is more close to the sensory modulation or the sensitivities that we typically say, was never a part of SIPT. However, ASI will be comprehensive because it will have the fourth construct as well. As you can see on your left side, there are specific areas that you are testing under the four constructs. So there are 20 tests in EASI, whereas the SIPT had 16. So there are number of tests have gone up. There are tests relating to reactivity. As you can see, test number 20, sensory reactivity, is absolutely new, which was never a part of a standardized tool. If you look at the team that is in behind the EASI, as I told you earlier, Zoe, Diane Parham, and Suzanne Smith-Rowe. Suzanne Smith-Rowley was in India in February 2020, just before the pandemic, and she did a certification program for India and neighboring countries. So up there you see three names who are the primary authors, and you will also see then very famous names which you would have read about, seen them on the textbooks. You see Anita Bundy in the data analysis. If you heard about Shay McCarthy, she is the test materials coordinator. The ASI first article publisher, the author is Roseanne Schaff, who is a validity investigator. You see a lot of people who are really up there in the leadership in the global SI forum, are all part of the all this data and developing the tool. Now, if you compare quickly with, and I will rush through because we have to start the other aspect as well. If you compare with SIPT, stereognosis as measured by mouth items is something that is new in EASI, was not a part of the SIPT. The position sense and gradation of force test under the proprioception and vestibular functions is new. Earlier, there was only post-rotary nystagmus in SIPT, but you have now new test called position sense and gradation of force. You also have localization of sound, which was never there under the category of visual and auditory localization. Earlier, you had only embedded objects in the rival background. Under the postural, ocular, and bilateral integration kind of test, balance and bilateral coordination was always there, but ocular pursuits, stabilization, localization, imitation, and postural control are new items or new tests under which you will have more items as a part of EASI. Under the praxis, very commonly discussed and known, the ideation aspect is something that is absolutely new in EASI. Ideation was never a part of the SIPT or any other any other contemporary sensory tool like sensory profile. SPM did not had ideation at all. The sensory reactivity, the entire category of sensory reactivity test is absolutely new. It is about smells also, it is about sounds also, and it is about touch as well. So the sensory reactivity over sensitive, under sensitive is something that has been included as part of a standardized tool for the very first time. This is the diagnostic sheet for those of you who are already exposed to sensory integration certification program, SIPT, would be aware that a diagnostic sheet is used. I wanted to show you how the diagnostic sheet due to EASI would change to this one. So ideation based praxis The red ones are the ones that are being added. In the sensory perception, the auditory is completely new. In the praxis, the ideation and language-based praxis is coming new. In the ocular postural bilateral, ocular and postural control are new. And the whole sensory reactivity is absolutely new. So having said that, that's all about introducing EASI. And I would like to take this opportunity to now shift the focus to the presentation on Q&A on what are the finer nuances to have children tested. But honestly, our entire reputation of Indian OTs is at stake. Remember that the deadline is 31st December this year. I would urge and challenge you and kind of tease you that we have to do this. Otherwise, even countries like Pakistan are getting more credit than Indian OTs in terms of number of data being supplied to the global fraternity. If there is any questions on what we have done till now, I would be happy to take up, or else let me hold you all for 10 more seconds. If there's any question, please do speak up, unmute yourself and tell me. Otherwise, we can transfer our entire focus to the subject at hand today, which is by Dr. Kamya. So Kamya, you can get prepared. I'll just give 10 seconds for some questions. Any questions whatsoever?
So I want to ask, like once you will be explaining about the manual, the tactile testing for the tactile perception and all, we don't have the shapes and other things. So how can we have a complete test? It's again will be the incomplete data collection.
Very good question, Priyanka. This is you actually summarize the objective of today's work by Dr. Kamya. You all would be happy to know. I'll ask you to pay attention to her. She has done immense efforts in developing her training material, which is not something that was already ready-made, supplied by the global team. She has done her personal efforts to ensure what all doubts are possible, and she has put up all those things that you have in your mind. So if you have anything about EASI as a kit, as a test, hold your horses for few maybe for 30 more minutes, and
Okay.
I'm sure you will get all your answers today.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so let's begin. Our agenda for today is to make you aware about where can we procure the material, which is a very common question I've been hearing from all those testers who have already been enrolled in the classy, as well as the new testers. So there are two set of people. I would like to clarify this because there are people who are completely new to EASI, and some have SIP training, some don't. So I'll be taking you through the whole 20 tests. I have made very useful videos for you all to at least get acquainted with the how the tests will be done, and I'll be guiding you through all of that. So let's begin.
Amir, can I take a minute? I have received a request from Zahir saying that he has a question, but he's not able to unmute himself. Utkarsh, may I request you to unmute Zahir for a moment, and let me see if the question is pertaining to my thing, or else we can continue.
Sure.
Zahir, can you please try to unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yes, please. Yes, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
sir. As I'm a pediatric physiotherapist and I'm trained in SIPT, and as you know, my practice. So, like, it is only the like the OTs will be recognized, or as a team will come up.
So the ESI global team has has been very clear that the physiotherapist, the occupational therapist, the psychologist, in some countries, in some areas, even the psychologists are being promoted to be a part of the data collection work. So anyone who would be sincere enough to collect data would have a due acknowledgement by the global EASI team. It has nothing to do with the occupational therapy profession of India, really. It's about a global project who says not just physiotherapists, they are actually including psychologists as well. But it all of course depends on the region lead and the country lead to ensure how this can be done with all kinds of things in the mind, with the political correctness, with competencies and everything. But as far as acknowledgement is concerned, there is no doubt whoever is collecting a data is willing, is sincere enough to give us, 5 normative data, is uh, is uh, is very much liable to receive an acknowledgement for it. Yeah,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
please continue, Kamya.
All right. So as sir has already talked about the constructs of the EASI, which include the sensory perception, postural, ocular, and bilateral motor integration, praxis, and sensory reactivity. So let's just quickly skip through this one and let's go to the test. Yes. So I would like to, for all of you to know that it is a really your responsibility to ensure that the parents give a very informed consent. You can explain them the tests, and there are certain specific tests regarding the sensory reactivity which need parents consent really, and you can show them the test sheets and explain to them before performing. And then the next thing, another important component is the FLIC questionnaire. So FLIC is the family life impact questionnaire. It is beyond the 20 tests that are in the EASI. So it's a participation measure. So we are not just collecting only the EASI data. When we will be entering the data that you have collected on the typically developing children into there's a system called as REDCap. You'll be introduced to that later. And some of you might already know about REDCap. So data entry will be complete only if we also complete the FLIC questionnaire. So now where will you find this questionnaire? I will be showing you gradually when we do the demo with the Classy dashboard. It is all there in the resources section in the Classy dashboard, and it will be available to all of you. Okay, so there will be PDFs available there, and you can download the PDFs from the Classy dashboard, and then you can share the FLIC questionnaire PDF to the parents via email, or you can give them in print as well. So please make sure that you do the FLIC questionnaire, the consent from the parents, as well as the data entry. So these are some certain things you need to remember. Next. So coming to the subject selection. So as we all know, we are collecting data in the normative sample. That means we are testing the typically developing children. So, and they should be representative of their country by age, gender, and as closely as possible for the ethnicity, rural, urban living, and socioeconomic status. So we should be testing Indian children. Then there are certain inclusion and exclusion criteria when it comes to the typically developing children also. So you have to remember the inclusion criteria is the age range. So we have to test children between 3 years 0 months to 12 years 11 months for the normative data collection purpose. Coming to the exclusion criteria, any children with any known history of medical, educational, mental health, or any other developmental concerns are excluded from this study. Also, any child who has any suspected problem in sensory integration or who have been earlier going for therapies but are now normal are also excluded from this study. In fact, many of you had this in mind that we'll be testing, siblings of children coming to us for therapy. But unfortunately, this has also been excluded from the study. So you cannot test children of siblings with similar issues as well. So you will be taking children beyond this exclusion criteria in the age range of 3 years 0 months to 12 years 11 months.